In a world where Avengers Infinity War is one of the highest grossing record-breaking movies of all time, another comic book with some of the lowest sales strives forward to give the best crossover event of the summer that only people watching this video will care about. Uber Infinity War! All of your favorite characters, after being separated by continents, will finally meet, like the child-murdering OSS agent Stephanie, General Patton, the disabled wheelchair-bound Battleship Leah Cohen, the homosexual Hitler-killing Battleship Sigmund, the mad Russian Battleship Maria Andreevna, Deathstroke, I mean Sigmund, it's not Deathstroke, it's totally Sigmund, Mr. Meatman, aka Battleship Zero, and the Beast from the East, Battleship Yamato. All of these characters are finally in the same issue in the best comic book event this summer, Uber Infinity War!
You gotta love to be gone back yet. Love is a time, don't you grab it.
So before we get into this month's chapter, let's do a little recap.
Fresh news from the front line. With things growing ever more desperate by the hour for Germany, they begin to launch their final campaign to buy whatever time for whatever horrors to be unleashed by their last enhanced human military project endeavor, Project Gutenring, or Twilight of the Gods. A battered and crippled Siegelande leads the offensive in Russia to face off against her greatest nemesis, the strongest battleship, Maria Andreevna. But in their desperation, Germany has dug up a long-forgotten asset, which might just win them the day. Find out what the future holds for the world in the latest chapter of Uber Invasion!
So in many ways, this is like the Avengers of Uber. In the sense that, like, we've seen most of the main primary cast interact in this, more of them interact in this issue than we have in any other. We have, Stephanie meeting up with Patton and, meeting Leah again. We have Maria confronting Siegelande again. We have Battleship Zero, who was not really a character, but, was in that frame. So, and even Battleship Yamato gets like a one-page cameo. And in a way, as the story sort of like comes closer and reaches towards its end, more of the main cast is like coming together. So, that's why I did that little trailer thing to like, this is the event of the summer. Forget Event Infinity War. This is the real Infinity War. It's all your favorite characters of Uber lore smashed together in one epic finale. This issue, we get some answers because, we didn't really quite understand how Germany was going to use Battleship Zero. But apparently, they found the ability to stuff it into a crate, and then Siegelande throws it at Maria, which leads some questions. I even, tweeted at Kieran Gillen asking, how the hell did they get it in that crate? Since Battleship Zero is supposed to be, this feral monster. If anything, I thought Siegelande would, just sort of poke it, and then, the Nazis would, direct it in the direction of, Russia, and then it would just, cause havoc, but apparently, they somehow were able to get it into a crate. And for me, that's a little bit, it's kind of annoying when, all these things that should be super costly and punishing to the Nazis are kind of, easy for them. Because, we have this great scene where Patton just, learns that the Zephyrs are far more limited than we ever could have hoped. And it's what the hell? The Americans' wonder weapon, the Flash, is has all these stupid restrictions, but the Nazis can get, their feral animal into a crate and then throw it at people. Kieran says that, it seems like too much of a detail for Kieran to overlook, and I tweeted at him, and he even replied, said, you'll find out next issue. So we'll have to wait into issue 14. I certainly hope it's, kind of something where, it just has to rage for, 3 or 4 hours or whatever until it exhausts itself. And then once it's, calmed down, that's when the Nazis get in a crate, and then they lose a few. Because that's the general theme we've been seeing a lot in Uber content. The idea that, it's the idea that every one of these means is so destructive and so costly that it leaves, nothing else. It just leaves ruin. We're seeing that theme come again and again when the fact that, it was revealed that, Germany's still in a horrible state. They are in no position to use any of the Allies' resources that they've conquered because they've no infrastructure, and they can't even plant crops in France because they burned it all. And that theme also comes again when we have Markat, the little Russian couple who's living next to Maria, and then they're oh well, we can't plant crops because you burned everything, which seems to be a recurring motif that Kyrian is using again and again. The idea that, like, Uber combat is so devastating and so destructive that it just, scorches the earth, salts the earth, and nothing can ever grow or change after that. And if we go with that motif, it's easy to believe that, Battleship Zero, there has to be consequences to this rabid mongrel of a monster that, that can't follow orders. There has to be some sort of rule that the Nazis are playing in blood in order to ensure that, it does what it can do. And we also have the interesting revelation that, like, I thought it was only going to be, like, partially activated. That it was just going to be this, like, thing that was used to, like, catch Maria off guard. But it turns out it's a fully activated battleship. It has the same sort of whatever, idiot savant, need to, like, recreate crystals that Maria has. And it somehow activated itself. And from the looks of it, it seems like it's more of a strength activation, given the fact that the full power of Maria's halo couldn't do anything towards it. Which begs the question, now that we're, like, being set up for issue 14, where apparently the United States Zephyr Corps is going to combat Battleship Zero. And as we learn, apparently all they can do is interact with Uber enhanced flesh within a 100-meter area of wherever they're activated with. And it feels like diamond knives aren't going to be super effective against Battleship Zero because, like, its anatomy is so beyond what counts as, like, human normal that just, like, cutting it like you cut Siegfried isn't going to be able to do anything. So I'm very curious to see whatever tactic that Patton does. And that's a great scene where, like, Patton, like, gets the Zephyrs. All right, so let's see a demonstration. Paint a fence. Deconstruct a tank. Defend a straight a forest. And they're like, sorry, we can't do that. We can only activate psychologically drawing. It's a bad idea. So what can you do? I can interact with Uber flesh upon 100 meters of where I'm activated with. So Kyrian did imply that the Zephyrs had like some severe, restrictions, and now we're sort of giving an idea of like what those restrictions are. So I'm certainly hoping that interacting with Uber flesh, given the fact that Battleship Zero is like nothing but Uber flesh, I'm certainly hoping that they can come up with a way. Well, I'm just looking to see what they come up with to actually defeat it. What they can do. Are they going to plant bombs on it? Are they going to try and cut it up with blades? What's the tactic that Patton's going to use to sort of like create that window of opportunity for them? But sadly, though, it looks like Maria got her ass handed to her by Battleship Zero, and the fact that it just charges at... Hilariously, Maria got her ass handed to her by Battleship Zero, where it just freaking charges at her and knocks her. So she's not out of the count, but she's not in good shape, The Kyrian did reveal what we've all suspected, that, she's got to have like a 20-to-2 Halo ratio, or, she's spec'd mostly in her, Halo effect, with only, 1 or 2 strengths. So, she's only as durable as like a regular tank man, which makes sense given the fact that she's not as tall as the other battleships and not as, immense sized. But she was able to save herself through her quick thinking. But, she's got like an arm poking out. But Maria is one of the few battleships who can actually potentially heal herself using her Halo, effect. So here's hoping that she's not out of the count forever. But things are growing more dire as Battleship Yamato and apparently Japan is attacking Russia from the rear. And, Battleship Yamato carves this huge trench. So, I'm very curious to see what happens. And, there's a really grim portent that, like, Russia is going to leave the war. They're just going to, like, evacuate, and that they're going to be forced to capitulate, which is really scary and depressing given how big the USSR is and how much resources they should have. And also given the fact that they have, like, that Gulag camp, which is basically, like, all these battleship candidates that, in theory should be able to turn the war. So, things are definitely going in directions I did not see. Maria is still alive, but now we know that, she's incapacitated to some degree. The atheist god emperor Maria was forced to, like, confront what she views as Satan, the Satan of the Uber universe. And, she had her ass handed to her, which does not, portend well for the fate of the Russians. But I'm very curious to see what happens in the next issue, because obviously nothing good is going to happen. I don't know how Japan even has the forces to, like, do an invasion of Russia, how many tank men they have. The implication was that, like, Japan was basically fighting a losing war in Okinawa, because American tank men were kind of, like, you know, plowing through their entrenched tank men that were, you know, losing resources. And, you know, basically now the America could meet their technological advantage, that they were just going to, like, you know, blaze through all of the Japanese forces. But now that they've got a battleship, they're using him, like, and you gotta get, you know, as much as you want to see Battleship Yamato, like, meet a grisly end, you gotta give him MVP. That guy is, like, doing work. He's single-handedly liquidating cities. He is running around. He doesn't have an army to support him. That guy is single-handedly the MVP for, like, the hardest-working battleship. But, you know, I'm fingers crossed that our heavy cruiser battleship boys, it says Bluestone and, you know, Vernon, I'm probably messing up their names, will eventually get to meet him and don't meet a grisly fate, given the fact that they're underpowered. But, you know, given what happened to the Colossus after facing Siegfried, or trying to save Siegfried, trying to save Sigmund, given what happened to the Colossus after it tried to face Sigmund, you know, that doesn't bode well. But also, you know, despite all the doom and gloom, despite the fact that Germany's on its last legs, but still, like, you know, able to cause harm and panic for the poor allies as they're, like, stretched to their limit, there is one light in the tunnel. Sigmund, you know, I thought, like, in an interview with Sigmund, what's he gonna reveal that they don't already know? But then, I forgot about it. He reveals the fact that he killed Hitler. And, you know, he doesn't know about the Geldmensch. So Stephanie is able to put 2 and 2 together. So that basically gives the Allies the ultimate propaganda campaign to fight against Germany, to basically point out the fact that Hitler is actually dead. Unfortunately, though, they have Goebbels pretending to be Hitler, but who knows? Maybe that's what the Allies will be able to use in terms of, like, to try and turn the battered and bruised German people against their country, or at least, like, destroy whatever little morale is left, given the fact that, like, you know, the entire German army is just Battleship Zero and, you know, Siegelande. And that's it. Those two things are the only thing that are, you know, pushing forward, with, you know, a few scattered forces of heavy tank men. What I would love is, like, once everything's done, to have, like, a super huge omnibus edition where, like, we get all the issues of Uber combined, and then we get, like, notes about, like, field deployments, how strong was Germany, how many tank men and blitzmensch and heavy tank men did they have at this point, like how many resources do they have? Because we get that, like, one little shot of battle where, like, you know, Siegelande is overlooking the battlefield, and we see, like, the Russian tank men getting slaughtered or trying to put down the German heavy tank men. But that doesn't look like there's a lot of them. So the question is, would have the regular tank men been able to overpower them given enough time of running at those heavy tank men? Battleship Zero, I can't wait to learn how more it works, what the rules and limitations are, because it seems a little too overpowered. And I hope those Zephyrs can do something. I want to see Germany, you know, I want to see a nice fuck yeah, you know, screw you Germany moment. Before we go into the final stage of Project Gutenberg. But, you know, Kieran Gillian has implied that, like, you know, by the end of this, you know, there may not even be a world left after the war is said and done. But obviously the historical narrator does show that, like, you know, the historical narrator reveals that the world does go on. It doesn't entirely end after World War II, just that the shape of the world is changed, you know, irrevocably. So I give this chapter an 8. It was fun to see things come together. A lot of great fun moments. A lot of good plot threads coming together, and I'm always hungry for more. I'm just sad that, like, Maria couldn't do more in her fight against Battleship Zero. And like all good issues of Uber, you know, I am sitting here hungry for more, eagerly, impatiently waiting for Kieran Gillen to, drop the next issue. But hopefully I think it's going to come maybe the beginning of June, because, like, on the, online it says June 30th, but, like, it also said the same thing, that it was supposed to be May 30th, so if it follows that same trend, it will hopefully drop in the first week of June, and we can get to see what the U.S. Zephyr Corps can do against Battleship Zero. So, I can't wait to see that fight, and I'm hoping that Maria, her role isn't done yet and something good happens, because it's amazing how much Germany is able to pull off with their random tactics, their random bullshit, and hopefully, you know, Battleship Zero causes them a little bit more trouble, given the fact that it's like a, you know, raving, mad honey badger of a creature than a military asset. And I do love the fact that, like, Siegelande just sees Maria and she's like, she just runs and throws it at her. She just throws the goddamn crate, which is amazing that she still has the strength for that. So those are my thoughts of Uber Invasion issue 13. I don't know if it's out on digital yet, but when you guys pick it up, my fellow enhanced human troops, let me know what your thoughts are. There's much theory crafting in terms of like what the Zephyrs can do against the Battleship Zero, because it does provide ample Uber flesh, but will it be enough? That we do not know, and that is always the sort of question that underlies everything. Will it be enough? So fingers crossed that the Allies are able to put it, fingers crossed that Tamara is close to finishing her activation. Fingers crossed that Patton... Actually, yeah, that reminds me of one more thought. That, like, what I would love to see is I want to see Leah versus Battleship Zero. Given the fact that they're both probably strength activation battleships, I feel like Leah would probably be the only thing that's able to, like, fight it on an equal platform. And also given the fact that Battleship Zero doesn't have legs, it would be an equal fight, that it just has these, like, huge arms. You know, I want to see Leah Cohen versus Battleship Zero. I want to see Leah Cohen get thrown in HMH Dunkirk throw style to fight Battleship Zero. I want the ultimate Uber cripple fight. So fingers crossed that maybe she, like, helps the Zephyrs in the next issue. Although, who knows, maybe what happens is because Battleship Zero is, like, so different than anything else, that we get, like, a moment, like, out of the Justice League movie where the Flash is running and then, you know, Superman sees him because he has supervision, that, like, you know, the Zephyrs think that, like, you know, the world is stopped around them once they're activated, but then Battleship Zero's eyes turn, and we see the fact that it recognizes that they're there, and it's like, oh, shit, no! But then Leah Cohen is thrown in and holds down Battleship Zero while the Zephyrs try and stab it to death with, you know, diamond blade knives or do something. I'm hoping they can do something cool, like rip off Uber flesh, because they don't have super strength. So fingers crossed that Patton comes up with some way of using the Zephyrs, because, you know, as Kyrian promised, they're far more limited than we thought. So those are my thoughts on Uber Invasion. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, all my enhanced troops, and see you next month where we get our next update from the front lines. And remember, lobsters and tennis, but don't you grab it.